Does your kaftan look like this? So do you have difficulty stretching your hand when you're in your kaftan? Well, in this video, I'll be explaining everything you need to know with regards to how to eradicate this fold around the shoulder, fold on the sleeve. We'll talk more about it at the video comments, and also why you might experience some difficulty when you stretch your hand. So very quickly, the neck of this person measures 17 inches, and I've explained in the previous video that the formula to get the neck width and depth is the neck divided by 2. That's if you are using this cutting pattern where you cut the front first, after which you now cut the back, right? So yeah, that is that. Then to eradicate this fold on the shoulder, the neck depth needs to be, the shoulder slope depth. You know, the shoulder is not a straight line. You can also see it on the mannequin. It slopes downward. So to the reason the clothes squeeze here, first of all, is because the shoulder slope depth is wrong. So when it is sloped properly, you are going to eradicate this mess around the chest region of the clothes, right? So to eradicate that, it's the same with the neck depth, and you can also add quarter of an inch. So what I'm saying now is that the formula to eradicate this neck depth is the neck divided by 6 plus quarter of an inch, right? So I'm going to need to mark that as 3 inches, and I'll just transfer my back measurement. This person's shoulder or back measures 19 inches, the chest measures 42, so I divide that by 4. To get a perfect neckline, I would recommend you get French cuffs, and also for your armhole cuffs, it's also good you get French cuffs, right? So we've already marked out the shoulder or the back. That's the shoulder, you know, measured from this C7 vertebrae. That's this cocoa on the shoulder. So you start from this shoulder tip to this point, and then you move over to the next line. So you're not measuring a straight line, it's going to form an arc with the center point, the angle at this bone, right? So yeah, that's how we get the back, and then you divide that by 2 and you proceed to mark it out. So in this, we go ahead to rule a line that will connect this shoulder, what's it called now?
Shoulder to the neck.
This shoulder point to the neck. So this point to this point, and I'll go ahead to use this this French curve to draw out the armhole. Now it's good for me to, okay, let me just go ahead and draw it out first. So I need the camera to come closer. So you would notice that when I'm drawing the armhole, I didn't slope it in too much. Now this is the reason. If I decide to bring in the French curve like this, you can see I'm sloping it too much. What would happen is I'm going to roll the armhole. I've already done that, right? So you would notice that I didn't slope in all the way. Let me just quickly do this for explanation purposes. I ruled this vertical line, so you see that my armhole curve didn't go in by more than quarter of an inch. So now I've seen many people who let the armhole go in too deep. One reason they try to make it go in deep is to eradicate this chest issue, and of course it works. But now there has to be a synergy, so to say, between the armhole here and the sleeve cap. I'll be explaining it when I move over to the sleeve cap. Now, if you slope this in all the way, like you take the armhole to go in all the way, something like this. If you cut the sleeve, in my own opinion, to have the right sleeve cap, what would happen is that the sleeve already will begin pulling, because you are assuming the armhole is going all the way here. So the sleeve is already going to begin pulling on the clothes, right? So when you want to make movements like this, in fact, before you even stretch out your hand, like you want to carry a child, before you finish stretching out your hand, you see that the buttonhole will already start gaping, already start opening. You can, if your clothes is like that, you can check and see what I'm talking about, right? So it's a better idea to make it go this way. Once the shoulder is sloped properly, forget it. You are not going to have this mess coming up on the chest of the clothes. So now I went ahead to mark the midsection. So this is the midsection. So people call it the shirt waist, but I prefer to call it midsection. Now the importance of this midsection is that it's actually critical. So when you are raising your hand in your kaftan, now watch mine. As I begin raising my hand, you see it gets to a point where the top begins to flow with my hand. So I'm raising my hand, and you can see I'm already beginning to raise the top as I go all the way. Now, looking at the mannequin, this is the slimmest part on the mannequin. Now, when this guy begins to raise his hand, this slimmest point here begins to stretch. So if, when cutting, the slimmest point was marked to be a bit high. Now, recall when he is stretching, it's almost like this thing we did in triangle in secondary school. So you're already kind of creating an hypotenuse such that even this part that is already small you are now stretching that small region over a broader space. So the person will feel a bit discomfort at this region when he's trying to stretch his hand. So therefore, it is very important to get the midsection right. And if you are not sure, then there's no point doing it, so that you don't inconvenience the wearer. Now, there are some people who have pot bellies. So for those who are pot bellied, of course, the stomach is already bigger than the chest. So you're either cutting A shape. By A shape, I mean you're cutting it to go all out like this. So in this case, I've already marked out the midsection. So for my midsection, I just take out ½ inch from the chest, except when the person is really muscular, and that's when I take out either 0.75 inches or 1 inch. Now you want to be careful not to take in more than 1 inch, because when you do that, you're already accentuating a feminine structure on the wearer. So it's kind of looking like a female when he's in the clothes. So you don't want to have that. Also, my waistline, I also make my waistline to be the same as the chest line. Now, on some few people's body, they have their hip, like the person holding the camera for me. His hip is almost the same as his chest. So if you are making clothes for him and you do it this way, you make the hip or the waist part to be the same as the chest, it's going to grip their butt so much, and it looks funny. It looks like the person who made the clothing properly measure, right? So when you have the hip bigger than the chest, at this point, you are going to work with the hip measurement and not the chest measurement. Let me say that again. When the hip is bigger than the chest, you are working with the hip measurement and not the chest measurement. Now, when the hip is smaller than the chest, you are working with the chest measurement and not the hip. If you want to work with the hip measurement when the hip is smaller than the chest, then you are going to be creating a cloth that is rather funny, because it will mean that you are trying to make the clothes going like this. So like you are doing like reverse A shape. It's arrant nonsense. It's rubbish. Don't even attempt it, right? So I think I've overflogged that already. So I will just go ahead and create this slant. So you notice my own cloth doesn't have that slant. So in this design, I was trying to merge kaftan and danshiki, and then I came up with this. While I was preparing for this content, I remember I saw someone who also merged kaftan, danshiki, and agbada together. Hopefully, I will share a video on it. Right. So I think that will be the much for this front part. Okay, so we'll move over to cutting the back of the kaftan. Now the back will be bigger than the front. Now for this cloth, I have chosen 4 inches. Anything between 3 and 5 inches works. But as earlier said, I chose 4 inches for this video. So you'll be using this video as a template on which you are building your cutting system on. Note that if you want to alter the 4 inches to probably 3 inches or 2 inches, you need to work on the neck and the armhole, because it's going to affect it. Right. Now you might be wondering, why does the back have to be bigger than the front? Now the reason is because the back of the male figure takes up more space than the front. Ladies now, the front protrudes, of course, the bust is there, but we males, we have the back bigger than the front. And also human movement, you tend to stretch your hand to the front more than you stretch. Like I can hold my hands together in front, but I can't do it at the back. So when I'm stretching my hand to the front, you can see I'm pulling more fabric to make this movement. Now this is a very free clothes, so of course I can make every possible movement, right? But if the back is just the same as the front, now see what happens when I begin to take my hand towards the back. You can see it's already open here. So imagine it's at the back and I cannot make that movement. It's going to give serious discomfort. So for the comfortability, of course, the back has to be bigger than the front, both in terms of length and in terms of weight. Very important. Having said all I've said, so I pulled, maybe this is my 4 inch mark, right? So I pulled it forward. I'm going to use this as a pattern to get the shoulders to the front back. And I'm also going to extend it to sort of align with the chest of the front panel. Then I'm going to just cut it downwards. Then I'm going to pull this to align with the 0 inch mark, right? So having done this, so having done this, right. I'll just go ahead and fold this over this. So this should lap at about half to 1/4 inch on top of the front. And then I will proceed to create a notch at this point. Proceed to create another notch at this point too. Alright. So now I'll be getting my armhole for the back. Recall I mentioned that the armhole at the back should not be as deep as the front, and I also mentioned that the reason for that is because you want the clothes to be comfortable for the wearer, right? That's the hallmark of a good clothes. Designs come and go, but fits stay forever. Then next is the armhole. So the shoulder depth, now recall I was saying, so if you decide to use 5 inches, the formula I use to get my neck depth at the back is this 4 inches here divided by 2 plus 1 inch. Now, if you use less than 1 inch, you would likely have a clothes that you end up folding at the back. I really hope I'll get a picture there. So it's going to look like this, which is not right. So it's supposed not to be like that. So to eliminate that, use this 4 inches divided by 2 plus 1. So that's going to give us 3 inches, right? So we're having 3 inches at this point. So of course, if I decided to use 5 inches, I know I'm going to take out half inch from this front neck depth. So instead of having this neck slope by 2.75 inches, I'll have it slope by 2.5 inches. Then I'll now divide that 5 by 2 and add 1 to it. So that will now make this go down by 3.5 inches. Yep, so I'm going to curve this. Once I'm done cutting this, it would have been done with. So recall I was saying something about sleeve cap. So for my own sleeve cap, I measure what I have for this armhole in front. So in this case, I have 7.75 inches, and then I take out between 2 to 3 inches from that. So let me think. Let me take out 2.5 inches out of it. So 7.275 minus 2.5 gives this me 5.25 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 5.25 inches here. And then for the vertical, the person's chest measured about 42. So I know that anything between 9.5 to 10 inches is fine. Now I know that from experience. I know. So having done that, right, this is the most important part in cutting the sleeve. So if you sloped your sleeve too deep, now you cannot use a sleeve cap of 5.5. And the deeper the sleeve cap, the lesser the wrinkling here. Also, the lesser the sleeve cap, the more the comfort the sleeve provides, but the less visual appeal it gives. Now, notice this, my sleeve, you see a little bit of crease here. But by the time I begin to stretch it out, it goes all the way out. Now, if I have more crease on the sleeve, I might even be able to stretch my hand to 90 degrees and the top will still remain, because the whole crease on the sleeve is allowing for that movement. But then again, the aesthetic appeal is not there, right? So there's a way one can balance it. So this is not bad. This is bad. I mean, which one looks better, right? So if you want one that reduces the creases, then this armhole thing minus 2 to 3 inches rather gives you that. Now, there's also a very important part, which is how you decide to curve the sleeve. So in this case, because I have more room on the front, I can decide to even slope it to go in a bit deep, and then it comes out this way. So I overly painted it, right? So this still gives me a, let me go ahead and cut it out. So I have a bit more clarity. Okay, so let me just cut out the entire sleeve. It's a 3/4 sleeve, and I'm having it at having done this right, even at this, you would still, if this cloth is sewn, it will still wrinkle more around this chest region, even on my own. So one way to solve the problem is you can move this, just drag this back by about 2 to 3 inches. So if I choose 3 inches this way, so I can mark it here at 3 inches, right? I'll adjust it here. Then I now go ahead and increase the slope here. So cutting this out would reduce the fabric left on this part, so reducing the wrinkling here. But I'll leave this to the discretion of the tailor to decide, of course. So if you decide between 2.5 to 3 inches, I mean 2 to 3 inches when the tailor is sewing. So yeah, that will be the much I'll take on cutting the kaftan top. I might not have explained some things well. You can refer to other videos in my page. You can check my YouTube channel. I have a comprehensive video. Alternatively, you can just get my course. Thank you for watching. Do follow for me.